Three of us were young professionals, up and coming in the working world, financial stability perhaps only a decade away. Magda managed a branch of a tapas chain that masqueraded as homespun and wholesome through sepia prints of local landmarks and jars of preserved garlic. Vic designed asset management software for hedge funds, a niche made lucrative through a heady cocktail of dubious ethics and excruciating tedium. I worked as a consultant ecologist, advising property developers on whether the beasts and bugs nestled in the greenfield sites in their sites were deemed commonplace enough to merit their destruction. In theory, all three of us had solid, well-paid jobs, but we had made the critical error of living in a moderately, not horrible city in an era of eye-watering rent. Living solo was financial suicide. So, we had maintained the marginally more affordable option of a house share, and reluctantly persevered with the challenges of communal living, coerced to endlessly negotiate differences of opinion on standards of cleanliness, definitions of room temperature, and whether it's acceptable to boil chicken soup in the kitchen kettle. But the rent was cheap, relatively speaking, so we had set aside our differences to find a mutually acceptable approach to conflict resolution, which is why we invented Nadine. Nadine was the household's only sinner, and through this selfless sacrifice absolved the rest of us of all our wrongdoings. Us three, on the other hand, were model housemates without a fault to our names. In this way, harmony was maintained. Any gripes or grievances could be aired freely, as Nadine was inevitably the culprit. I wonder if Nadine knows it's her turn to clean the fridge. If you see Nadine, could you ask her to stop scraping the non-stick pans? Nadine's left something truly unholy in the toilet, but I'm sure she'll sort it out soon. The house formed one segment of a decaying Victorian terrace, originally one bedroom but with some canny retrofitting, namely gutting and converting the non-essential living room and one bathroom, made the house three. Occasional half-hearted maintenance efforts by the landlord kept it just within livable conditions. The radiators worked with a few hours' notice. The windows kept the heat in if the edges were stubbed with rags, thoughtfully left behind by past tenants, and by placing a paving slab on the washing machine, its trail of destruction around the kitchen could be mostly mitigated. The house had even been repainted within living memory, an uneven layer of eggshell white, coating walls, doors, doorknobs, and a smattering of squashed insects. Nadine lived behind the locked door on the upstairs landing. The room beyond presumably housed the landlord's neglected refurbishment materials, or maybe the boiler. Nothing that concerned us tenants, anyway. Under the guise of the portal to Nadine's abode, the door became a sticky note metropolis, a public forum to put forward suggestions for more harmonious housematery in writing. Hi Nadine, please could you clean your hair trimmings from the sink? Nadine, quick reminder that if the milk has someone else's name written on it, that means it's theirs, not yours. Hi Nadine, so happy your love life is going strong, but please keep the decibels down after midnight, thanks. Nadine formed the core of our camaraderie. We are three very different people grudgingly sharing the same small space, but with an ultimate goal in common: to keep the house as peaceful as possible until we could hoard enough capital to escape to more hospitable climes. By rallying against the antisocial Nadine, it worked. The first crack in our facade appeared when I arrived home late one night after a particularly brutal assignment. While surveying a lush, wildflower-laden meadow, ripe for conversion to another out-of-town shopping centre, I had stumbled upon a protected species of bat roosting in an oak tree. My account of this rarity was not met positively. The developer had charmingly offered to set both the tree and my house on fire if the report was not retracted. When I went to leave, the slashed tyre on my car seemed unlikely to be a coincidence. So it was well into the small hours when I finally made it home, so I slipped in quietly, using my survey torch to light my way. Reaching the upstairs landing, an almost inaudible creak reached me, a movement caught in the torchlight. Nadine's door closed shut with a click. For a moment I wondered if I'd imagined it. To my knowledge, the door had never been opened during our tenure. I approached the door, thinking to test the handle, but paused. Surely there was a less confrontational way of addressing the mystery. Instead, I treated the door to a new addition to its sticky note community. Hi Nadine, did you have your door open around 2 a.m? Just checking all's good? That should cover it. I headed to bed. The next morning, the sticky note had a response in scratchy handwriting. I was just thirsty. Magda and Vic were both in the kitchen when I entered, comfortably ignoring each other as they prepared themselves for work. Vic was scarfing down cereal as he scrutinised a nefarious-looking block of code on his laptop. Magda was making a cup of tea while bobbling on to the trance track that issued faintly from her headphones. I asked Vic if he'd heard anything strange last night. Just the normal, he said, raising his eyebrows conspiratorially. No, not Magda's night guest. Oh, you mean Nadine's? Vic pressed a single key on his keyboard and a chunk of code turned red. He swore softly. No, yes, from the room with the sticky notes. Oh, maybe the boiler's playing up. There was no hot water this morning. I assumed Nadine used it all again. He glanced at Magda, whose hair was wrapped in a towel. She was frowning at her phone, blissfully unaware of Vic's remarks. Ghosted again, she muttered to herself, staring at the little screen as if willing a notification to appear. Men only want one thing. Vic rolled his eyes. I looked down at the sticky note in my hand. Magda's handwriting was large and loopy, while Vic's was tight and blocky. The scratchy scrawl on the note matched neither. Hi Nadine, wondering if you can sort out that funky smell, thanks. Weeks passed, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Nadine's door stayed staidly shut, locked tight. The house was old, our tenancy just a footnote in its long history. And somehow I felt the building was keeping something from us, or didn't consider significant enough to share its secrets. Nadine's crimes continued unabated, but the atmosphere remained hypnotically tranquil. The only noticeable change was the arrival of an odd, sweetly metallic smell that occasionally permeated the landing. Then one Friday I returned from an evening in the pub to find both Vic and Magda in the kitchen looking serious. We need to talk about Nadine, said Vic. What's she done now? I asked, trying to sound sober. He placed a sticky note on the table. Nadine, have you paid your share of the rent? The landlord says someone hasn't paid. The question was in Vic's handwriting, and underneath, a scratchy reply. Sorry, I'm a bit short. Can you cover me this month? I'll pay back ASAP. Could you talk to Nadine and tell her she needs to pay? Magda asked. We're not covering her. I realised both of them were looking at me intently. Wait, you think it's me that hasn't paid? I said. No, of course not, said Vic placatingly. It's Nadine. I nodded hesitantly, striving to clear the cider clouding my cerebral cortex. Great, said Magda, smiling thinly. So if she could pay by tomorrow, that'd be perfect. Wait, it's really not me. I tried to find the words to explain, but they stayed stubbornly hidden. Look! I headed for the stairs, taking the sticky note with me. They reluctantly followed me to Nadine's door. That's my handwriting there. I pointed to a note reading, Hi Nadine, are you using my toothbrush, the purple one? Please don't. It's different from this note, right? I looked pleadingly at Vic and Magda. My own sanity seemed at stake. Blessedly, I saw comprehension and consequential confusion dawning on their faces. But it's not my writing either, or Vic's, said Magda. So who wrote it? Could it be one of Nadine's one-night stands, said Vic. They wouldn't be one-night stands if they ever returned my messages, said Magda bitterly. But no, it couldn't be. No one's come over since the last week. None of us spoke for some moments. I slowly extended a hand to the door, silently willing them to stop me. They didn't. I knocked. Nadine, I said, hating the crack in my voice. Sorry to disturb you. It's about the rent. We waited. Silence. Then a subtle sound of shuffling. We all took a step back. A click, the handle turned. Vic grabbed a coat hanger from the drying rack, presumably for self-defence. The door opened a crack. From the paleness within, a pale, dark-haired young woman peered out. Hi guys, she said. What's up? My heartbeat cranked up several notches. Vic emitted a weird little whimper. Nadine? Magda croaked. I'll answer to anything. Nadine stared impassively at the three of us. Who are you? Said Vic. What are you doing in our house? Nadine crossed her arms. I live here, Vic. I've lived here for years. You obviously know that. She indicated the slew of sticky notes populating her door. I felt queasy. The ciders were dancing a samba in my stomach. Sorry about the rent, said Nadine. Everyone's cashless these days. But I'll pay you back next month, I promise. No worries, I said thickly. Actually, while I have you all, I have a bone to pick, said Nadine. Loads of these notes aren't anything to do with me. She tore a handful of them from the door. I don't drink milk, I don't cook, I don't use the bathroom. Okay, the smell was my fault, granted, and I'm working on sorting it. But please, stop accusing me of things I didn't do. It feels super aggressive. Magda began hyperventilating. So you've been here all this time, she said between gasps. Why have we never seen you? Different schedules, different lifestyles, different means of entry. Her expression gave little away. I frowned, fighting through the brain fog. Did you say you don't use the bathroom? I said. Do you have like a bucket in there? The strange odour emanated from the dark room behind her, though it didn't smell lavatorial. Nadine rolled her eyes. Vampires don't need to use the toilet, genius, she said. You're a vampire? Said Vic, clutching the coat hanger tighter. I became painfully aware of my own empty hands. Obviously. Nadine's lip curled back to reveal shiny white fangs. But you can chill out. I don't eat housemates or their loved ones. There's a clause in the rental agreement. You'd know if you'd read it. So what do you eat? I asked. Morbid curiosity superseded fear. Nadine shrugged. Whoever I find out and about in the night. The wealthier looking ones, normally, so I can make rent. Failing that, those weirdos that stumble about on the landing after a night with Magda. You've been eating my dates? Magda shrieked. That's why they never get back to me, because they're dead? Oh, sorry. I thought you've done with them. You know, if it was an issue, Nadine gestured at her decorated door, then you really should have left a note.